Welcome back to From Within She Rises. Today is going to be an episode from the series Moments of Atonement, where I document the holy redirections that happen in the mess of real chaotic life, because atonement does not happen on the mountaintop or in the 40 days in the desert. It happens in the trauma loop. So let's take a deep breath in together and drop in. And take a deep breath in through your nose and release any of the trauma loop that you're still looping through. Deep breath in and release any of the new age bypassing or spiritual bypassing you're doing. We're going to release today. In this moment, we want your nervous system to say no more. Today is going to trigger some of you, but I am going to invite you today to take a deep breath in when it does and release that, and just sit with whatever triggers you, because every trigger might be the one that sets you free. So welcome back to today's episode, which is Stop Calling It Ascension. You're just trauma bonding. It's going to trigger many, I think. But like I said, I personally love being triggered now. I love a tantrum from my child. I love going on social media and seeing something that just makes me feel ick. Because if I take a second and I sit with it with God and I say, okay, how do I see this with love and compassion? And I am able to, and I'm able to integrate that. Now I'm like deep into the spiral, so I'm able to really integrate that piece of myself. And then every trigger gets me closer and closer and closer to the inside of that spiral. So today we're going to talk about the myth of collective ascension through pain. I just keep seeing this pop up everywhere. There's this thing that no one says out loud. And a lot of what's being called ascension right now is just a trauma bond in spiritual clothing. And I know that doesn't feel good to hear. And I'm not saying that all headaches and whatever are just a trauma bond. That's not what I'm saying. But I want you to understand that when you're looking for validation through your pain, that's not ascending. You're staying stuck in a loop. And someone's just handing you a chart or a Schumann graph or a light worker term to explain it. So now it feels sacred. But we don't want to be feeling that way. It's not sacred. The pain is not sacred. Your nervous system doesn't need more information, unfortunately. I think, don't get me wrong, I am at the point like deeper into the spiral where I've transcended the need necessarily to look for answers, to know this, to know everything, because I've surrendered. And in every moment where you feel like you're getting stuck in that trauma loop is an opportunity for you to surrender and just be like, send me. And this is why I say it's Christ through the body, because Christ is sending you the little signs, and he will send you down the right path, and he will send you to the Schumann graph, or he'll send you to some sort of like I love human design. It literally has helped me to have the courage to be where I am right now. And by using terms like that, I am going to get more people that are in that same space that are ready to actually ascend. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with using these terms at all, okay? But I really just want to center around the fact that they don't actually matter, and that's going to hurt. And when you start to try and find someone else that's feeling your pain, you guys are the ones in the book of Revelation that are fighting the ascension, actually, when you think and this isn't going to feel good either, because right now I'm speaking to the spiritual woo-woo and not necessarily the Christians that are thinking that Jesus is coming back to save them. But it's all in the same lump, right? Like, it doesn't matter what version of reality you're living. At the end of the day, if it feels painful, you're not if it feels painful most of the time, you're not letting God in. So yes, I will say yesterday felt painful for me, but this morning I feel zen and amazing and back to my usual self. I honestly had such a huge, I met Jesus in April, and on Saturday the 6th there, I had like a full on 5th. On July 5th, I had an hour with God, if you will. So, yeah. And since then have felt awesome. But at the end of the day, the collective ego still tries to pull you back in. My daughter's like, I want this, I want that. She's crying. Honestly, I feel like it's harder than usual. I'm still doing a very good job of staying zen. But it's like the other pieces of me that are the other souls around, the other pieces of God, the other pieces of the collective feel that I'm getting closer, and then they attack me more through temper tantrums. And then eventually sometimes, it's one after another. And your girl gets tired, she gets a migraine, she goes and she lays down, and then she comes back at it today. And she just keeps spiraling deeper. But anyways, I just want you to understand, though, like, when you start to look for validation in your pain and then you have somebody explain it, so now it feels sacred, it's not. Your nervous system does not need more information. It needs repatterning. It needs safety. It needs truth. Not truth as a concept, and not truth as that's like fully explained through Schumann resonance or whatever, or even the Bible. Truth that heals, truth that's going to land. When you validate pain over and over and over again without transmuting it, your body does not heal. If you look at this from neuroscience, it's the same thing. You now have taught your body that the pain is safe, that pain means you're ascending, when it doesn't. Pain means that you have not let go of something. You've not surrendered. And your body really does learn that pain is safe. That dysregulation equals connection to God. That staying in the spiral means you're spiritual. That's not ascension. That's trauma worship. And I know this doesn't feel good to hear. And here's what I need you to understand. Christ didn't ascend through pain, although he did weep a lot. He ascended through forgiveness and through surrender, through forgiving everyone, himself, everyone, and through surrender. He didn't climb a frequency ladder. He let go of everything that was false. Real ascension doesn't make you feel powerful. It makes you quiet. It makes you still. And here's the thing, going back to the fact that this is why Christ is through the body, God through the body, whatever you want to say, spirit through the body. You are being led in the direction that you need to be. You are being given the signs from God, Spirit, Source, whoever you want to name here. I'm not fighting over names. I'm not here to. I'm here to ask you to surrender to whoever you're naming. And the reality of it is you are being given signs through the body. The body is a tool, a learning tool. You are being given signs of what's going to resonate with you. And that could be frequency. Frequencies could be the thing that gets you to surrender enough. It could be astrology. Lining up your prayer with the cosmos may be what gets you to surrender enough. I'm not negating that these things work in the sense that they will lead you to what's going to allow you to surrender. I'm just saying they're not the end. Until you can look at all of them and find tools in some capacity, because you're already closer to the spiral, you've not ascended yet. Real ascension does not make you feel powerful. So yeah, emptying enough for God to actually move through you is the goal. Whether it's coming from frequency, whether it's coming from meditation. Meditation for me is it. Like, it's how I guess it's how I force stillness. So for me at this point, I think it's the fact that I have 4 kids. It's really loud in my house right now. And if I purposefully say, okay, I'm going to give myself, I think I'm at half an hour in the morning right now because we've actually scaled back. Maybe not scaled back. But anyways, I do half an hour when I wake up. I do like a 10-minute walking meditation to start being able to do this when I'm conscious, because I think that's really the next part of integration. And then I do a 20-minute before bed at this point. And those are going to get bigger because I'm deep into this 40-day integration fast, whatever we want to call it, after hanging out with God and having everything dismantled. Like he pulled apart and dismantled all timelines, collapsed, everything collapsed for me. And then the next day he allowed me to feel why sin does not exist. And your girl wishes she could go out to the desert for 40 days, but she can't. So I'm doing my best with the tools that I have. But yeah, if you're just relying on external charts, on energy spikes, on collective trauma narratives to know how you're doing spiritually, then you're still outsourcing for your God. I'm sorry. I think that there's a place of surrender. The beautiful thing is that when I listen to my body, anytime I've listened to my body in terms of, let's go to human design because it's what resonates with me. But I was doing it before I knew about human design. I think human design is a great way to understand. But every time I get really excited, goosebumps, shaky, like I'm a chihuahua if I were an animal, I know I'm on the right path. I know that God's telling me, hey, this is your hell yes, go do it. And then I go do it. And that's learning about human design, because now it's another modality that I can use to help you guys learn how to feel Christ through the body. And it's just, every time I get these visceral responses, I know I'm being led in the right direction. So I've always just kind of flown by the seat of my pants in that regard, at least in my adulthood, probably as a young child too, because I used to quote unquote astral project, I guess. And it's just, yeah, I am always led in the right direction, and it might not make sense because it might be an excitement here and there and everywhere, but it all kind of has come together in surrender. But when you start to surrender, and that is surrender, right? Like when you look at human design, let's say, as a way to learn how to surrender, you are literally learning how to use your body intuition, and your body is connected to God, source, whatever, in the sense that it is a learning tool. So when you start to listen to the things that excite you or where you're being led, and you actually follow them, and when the fear comes in, you say, shut the hell up, I'm choosing love because this is where I'm being sent, and you keep doing that, it does eventually lead to full surrender. I'm not fully surrendered. We're getting close. But yeah. Okay, now we're going to do a little pivot here, and it's going to go to another modality that people use to get closer to God. It's not a modality, but it's a book. So if you've ever heard of this book, A Course in Miracles, this is essentially, they say that it is, believe what you may, what you will. I think we all of us are trying to remember. All of us have put together different modalities and different courses and different this and different that when we're actually led by God, that have pieces of the spiral. And if you find one, you kind of get sucked into the spiral. And if you fully surrender, you have the Spirit of Truth descend upon you, and you go down the rabbit hole. And it's honestly just about surrendering layer by layer. And the more you surrender, the closer you get to the middle. That does not make it sound really easy, but it's painful. But back to A Course in Miracles. It's essentially a book that was channeled through, I think it was in 7 years, don't quote me on that, to a psychiatrist who was actually an atheist or a psychologist, somebody in the psych world. Her name was Helen, and she channeled through this book. She said she was speaking to Christ, speaking to Jesus. And so this book is very it's missing a lot. I think it has pieces of understanding, but I think it's missing a lot, because at the end of the day, you can't channel through perfectly something to somebody who hasn't fully surrendered, right? And especially it's coming through the perception of somebody who's in the psych world and is very logical and methodical, and it's coming through very sterile, if you will. And so I do think it has some beautiful things in there. I'm not going to lie, I've not read the entire thing, but yeah, people get really uncomfortable probably when I say that. When I say, yeah, here it is, but I've never finished it. I've never finished it, but I understand it. You just have to be ready for it. I haven't read the whole thing, and yet I think somewhere around chapter 9, and sometimes I circle back to chapter 6. But you want to know the truth? I didn't study my way into atonement. I literally became it. I became because Christ already lives in me. And when the Spirit of truth descended at the same time as seeing Christ, and Sophia cracked my nervous system wide open, and I actually let God move in me, and every time I surrendered, I made more space for him. The Course just started confirming what I already knew in my bones. And that's how the Spirit of truth works. Every time I found something in that book that I've been like, oh, and I do have the intention of reading the whole thing, but at this point, I can't keep up with the fact that I have the Spirit of truth in me, and then I'm getting like revelation after revelation after revelation, surrendering, having love and compassion for those revelations, integrating it by seeing somebody who's showing me a piece of me and integrating that. And I just like, the work is in the embodiment at this point for me, that I have the intention of reading this book. I really do. But because I'm in it, I'm deep in it. I honestly probably, anyways, the point is also like, she doesn't care. The Spirit of truth just works, right? Like, she doesn't care what your credentials are. She doesn't give a shit if you've read that book. She's just waiting for you to surrender, right? When your system is safe enough, she just pours through. And A Course of Miracles is true. It's holy in a sense, but it's also filtered through a deeply masculine, linear, intellectual frame, like I said, which makes it feel stark. It makes it feel emotionless at times. Christ was not emotionless. But it's coming through a vessel that hasn't surrendered, that was given the information to try and pull others through, but never surrendered to it so that they could embody it. And you can read every word and still miss the entire frequency, because the Course isn't something you finish. You don't have to finish the whole book. It's something you remember. So when your ego dies, and that's why I think like this and all other modalities, that's all it is. It's a way. Trust what God is telling you, you resonate with. Go down the rabbit hole until you're willing to let him in. Let the Spirit of truth in to make a little bit of room. Make that little bit of room. Start listening to the things that come in that don't make sense. Because they are not your ego, they are him. And that's why I don't often like quote A Course in Miracles to prove anything. I don't need to. I quote it sometimes because the Spirit has already made it real in me. Like I said, I've been trying to get through this book. I think I'm on chapter 10 now. But every time I read it, it's always like validating something that I've already known. And in a very intellectual lens. And then I'm like, oh, but this is what that's missing. Because it is missing a lot. It's missing the feminine, to be completely honest. And I guess I thankfully lived a very masculine-led life. So now that my feminine energy is finally taking over, she's like, listen, you can do this. You've been very masculine and rigid. You can expand now. But anyways, I recognize the Spirit of truth in that voice. Because it is mine too, but it is very stark. And all I want to say is, you could read that until you're blue in the face and not ever embody it. You really, embodying truly, as much as we don't want to see it as that, I really think my life's work is the book of Revelation in the decoding of it. And if you haven't already, just go watch some of my Decode the Apocalypse episodes on either Instagram or TikTok. I think in a couple of weeks I'm going to release the entire codex for anybody who's interested in like purchasing it in depth and who's maybe still living in the void where they need some intellectual breakdown, because my codex is that. It's like the poetic flow and revelatory, how I got it, how I understood it, but then I do break it down in terms of, okay, this is like the Greek word and the Aramaic word, and this is how it would have gotten lost in translation. And I really try and pick apart your limiting beliefs. I try and pick it apart for your ego so that you allow it to really saturate your bones. And and I'm probably just going to release it as an ebook for now. So I will keep you guys updated. I have it written out. I just have to make it look pretty, I guess. My intention was to get it published, but we're going to start with this for now because I think at this point it needs to get out into the world. It really does. Because I think people are interested, but then they're like, but how? Or some people on the surface are interested and they just need that extra, they need the masculine ripped apart. But the reality of it is, going back to atonement, is if you want to be one of the sealed, it is painful. You know, the sealed are the ones that went first, but they're still, it is painful. It is painful. It is weeping in my car on the way home from dropping off my daughter, which I did this morning. It's crying in the kitchen for some other thing that finally dropped in and you integrated. It's painful in the sense that you need to let her in, and she's going to make you go through the emotions. And the reality of it is also, in this book, it says you atone by teaching. So every time I have an opportunity to, I've spent the last 6 years of my life being a women's coach. So, I've done lots of teaching to find, ironically, love and compassion for ourselves. So I guess I'm a guru on the surface level, on the ego level of that. And now every time I come in and I record a podcast, or I have the opportunity to speak to somebody in the DMs, or I have the opportunity to coach, I'm just about ready to release the spiral of the sins, I think is what I called it, which is a 7-week intensive, 2 calls a week, 1 with teaching, 1 with just coaching, and just like breaking apart the 7 deadly sins that we are not seeing them as they really are, which they are. They're layers of atonement, because like I said, sin is no more now that God has like put that into my head. But anyways, back to the task at hand. Atonement really is in the teaching, because every time I have an opportunity to, somebody says something to me, especially now this far deep into the spiral, I start to see how they are pieces of me. Like I can see myself in them, and I can hold and have that love and compassion for them because I've been them, right? And when you, as a teacher of A Course in Miracles or atonement of any kind, or this spiritual path, when you're able to now be so deep in the spiral that every time you have a conversation with someone, you see yourself in them and you can integrate that piece, that is real atonement. And that's why you do have to. And I'm not saying you have to wait until you get to that point, because I wouldn't be at this point now, where I just spent an hour with God on Saturday and then had him completely, as I'm driving home from church, ironically. And somebody asked why I still go to church, and I'm like, I honestly go because my kids, like, I think it's a really awesome place. I also love my pastor, and while my comprehension of truth is very different now, it also gives me like an hour of silence in my own brain. I tried to listen to the sermon. I listened a little bit, I got some from it, and then I just won't, like, God was pouring in revelations. You can see and I didn't write anything about the sermon, to be completely honest. This is all the revelations that came in while I was just sitting there, not actually paying attention. Sorry, Jody. Yeah, but anyways, I wouldn't be at this point now. I would not be at this point now if I had not had the courage to start teaching about it, even if it was just through a podcast and through like my client calls and through people that were close around me, and then slowly having the courage. Now that I have had the courage to be like, screw it, I'm using my loud disruptive voice and embodied spirit to go and say whatever the heck is needed to say, but like fully on social media, because like it's definitely the algorithm on Instagram don't like me. It is very ego-centered, and that's okay. We're losing people that are just, they want to be tormented, because spoiler alert, heaven and hell don't really fully exist in the sense that you think. Hell is right here. Hell is you choosing to not remember over and over and over again. And this is painful too. Don't get me wrong. Being in this position is painful too. But it's not that painful because I have surrendered, and so I know the truth. And I know way more things that I can post on than I can say on here and not have your minds explode. So we're going to stop there. Heaven is when we all remember. And that's what it says in A Course in Miracles as well, is that we can't attain heaven until every single piece of us, of the Son, of God, remembers who they are. And a lot of us are fighting it. A lot of us are fighting it. Surrounded by them. But the fact of the matter is, if I hadn't, when I saw Jesus, if I hadn't have been like, okay, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to start talking about it, I'm starting a podcast. I, in fact, have recorded 2 episodes of a different, and you can go on back and listen to them. They were kind of just like, meet me. You can see the evolution of how I speak, to be honest, through this podcast. If you want to witness the spiral, witness the way I speak. But yeah, at the very beginning, my intention was for this to be a functional nutrition thing that had human design and had some spirituality and had some woo. But then I recorded that intro, which I still put it out because I think it's important to know like what I've been through trauma-wise. And I didn't really talk fully about it, but what I've been through trauma-wise to understand where I'm at. But that day that I recorded these 2 podcast episodes and decided, okay, I was going to start speaking my truth, in drops the spirit of truth. How ironic. So teaching is actually very important. It is how you learn, because you are able to come into questions that, every time my daughter questions something, every time a comment questions something within me, it's an opportunity for me to learn deeper in the spiral. So people, everyone, myself included, it is hard, but people always say surrender is hard, especially if you've had trauma, which I'm not. I get it. And that's the narrative, to be honest. I've had trauma. I have endometriosis. It's like literally scientifically proven that if you are a woman with endometriosis, you've been through a shit ton of trauma. Okay? It is proven. So I'm not negating that trauma is real. But I need to tell you something that might shake the narrative loose a little bit. Surrender was still easy for me. Not because I didn't have trauma, obviously. And even going past that, I have had trauma. I have survived cancer. I was raised by a mother who was very dysregulated. I have been in relationships that were definitely toxic. And I'm saying this in a very loving and compassionate way because I don't know how to, I don't know how to not. Now, I've lost, I've grieved, I've been dismantled, but here is the thing. I never built an identity around my trauma. I never used it as a badge. I never used my endometriosis. Endometriosis, for one thing, is like endo warrior hashtag, all this stuff. It becomes your identity. Your trauma becomes your identity. And when you have the opportunity to surrender it, you don't want to. Because who will you be when you let go of that badge? You need to stop seeking validation through pain. I used my trauma as a signal, a moment to ask, do I want to keep feeling like this? And when I didn't, which I never really did, I changed. I didn't wait to be validated in the pain. I didn't wait for a coach to tell me it was time to go. I didn't wait for Monday. I didn't wait for my body to fall apart to finally listen. I just got so tired of the noise that I chose something different. Not once, but moment by moment, trigger by trigger, breath by breath, and eventually, many years later, because I was diagnosed, I had cancer when I was 9, endometriosis was diagnosed when I was 23, I think. So it's been a hot minute because I will be 38 next month. But God did finally come in fully. The Spirit of Truth descended, not because I earned it, but because moment after moment, atonement after atonement, trigger after trigger, I made space for it. And once she did come in, there was no more trying. There was no more grasping, just remembering over and over and over again what I've always known. And I also want you to understand that while I say it's easy to remember, it is painful. The book of Revelation is still the depiction. It's many things, but on one surface level, on the outside of the spiral, it is the depiction of what it will feel like for you to surrender your ego, for me to surrender my ego. It is the depiction of that because it hurts, because you will have a sealed one come in and say something to you, where you will have the Spirit of truth descend upon you, and you will have a revelation or two, and your ego, the devil, the enemy, whatever you want to call it, will come in and tell you, why are you believing this? Don't you remember this scripture? Don't you remember that? And ego, whatever, will have you doubting God, will have you doubting the Spirit of truth. So even when it does come down, it doesn't stop there, because you constantly have to choose, okay, but how do I choose love and compassion? If you start seeing it like that, it really does, in the micro moments, allow it to be easier. Because if you choose that in your micro moments of life, then it's easier to start telling that ego to shut the hell up. And here's the thing, people aren't going to like this. And you want to know why this message isn't going to go viral, and why people hear it and they flinch, why they scroll past or argue in the comments? Because it's not marketable. It's not soft. It doesn't feed your wounds. You can't monetize a healed nervous system. And most people in the spiritual space are still selling the part of you that believes you're broken. They teach you how to cope with your trauma, how to work with your nervous system, how to integrate your shadow over a 12-week course. But what if I told you that your nervous system can become a sanctuary, that peace isn't a theory or a milestone, it's a biological reality that you can choose, that your system doesn't need another round of trauma validation. It actually needs the truth, stillness, safety, surrender. And that's threatening to people who build their entire platform, their entire identity, their entire business on being wounded. So yes, people hate this message because it strips away the coping mechanisms they've learned to love. And it tells them, you're not stuck, you're just scared to let go. And I do want to reiterate that those things are valid. Those things are valid to get you in to the spiral. Almost every modality, you can find Christ in it. Like, you send me a message and I will find it for you. Send me a message, whatever modality you want me to look into. I promise I am so deep into this that I can find him in anything. And I even said this a month ago, possibly 2 months ago. So, he is in everything. God is in everything. Christ is in everything. Okay, so then what is Ascension? What does it really look like? What does it really mean? It's not fireworks. It's not the symptom list. It's not the dramatic timeline collapses in the grid work reports. Ascension is in the micro surrender, the moment you feel the old pattern rising and choose not to follow it. You hear what I'm saying? So you have a knowing, or somebody sends you a video and it feels good in your body, and then your old pattern and your old fear, doctrine, whatever, comes in, and you can feel it rising within your body. You can feel that fear, and you say, nope, not today, Satan. I mean, there's a reason why that comes up. We're just using it the wrong way. It's the moment you choose to breathe instead of react. It's the moment you pause when your body says run, and instead you stay. You want to ascend, then zoom in. Zoom into what's happening in your chest right now. Zoom into the trigger you're avoiding. Zoom into the discomfort you've been spiritualizing away. Every moment is a checkpoint. Every reaction is a fork in the road. Every breath is a chance to return to God. You don't need to chase higher frequencies. You need to get honest about where you're still abandoning yourself. Because heaven does not arrive when you finally feel good. Heaven arrives when you feel everything and you still choose love. If this episode triggered you, then good. If it softened you, better. If it reminded you that your healing was never supposed to be a performance, then you've just taken another step into the spiral. Ascension is not a destination. It's a million tiny choices to stop outsourcing God and start letting him live inside of your body. Thank you for being here, for breathing with me, for remembering who you really are. Thank you, I love you, and I will see you in the next spiral.